Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I see that we have a packed virtual room today with individuals calling from around the world. So thank you all again for joining. I will be kicking off this webinar and what I hope will be a very exciting and very timely conversation that we'll be having today. So my name is Jacinto Zebige. I'm the Gender Manager at the Clean Cooking Alliance. And again, it's my absolute pleasure to be kicking off this conversation, and many thanks to all of you for joining today. Would also like to give a special thanks to the other co-hosts, ENERGIA and Sustainable Energy for All. When all three of us came together to start discussing and planning this webinar, I think there was a strong recognition that all three of us really want to take an active and leading role in better understanding how the COVID-19 pandemic is affecting women entrepreneurs in the sustainable energy sector. So seeking to not only unpack the challenges that are currently at play, but to also better understand how entrepreneurs are innovatively and creatively responding during this time. Now, before we jump into the conversation, I just have a few Zoom logistics to discuss with everyone. So first of all, for all attendees, it would be great if your microphone and video could please remain off for the duration of the conversation. And then during the Q&A portion, we will be utilizing the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. So when typing your questions, please make sure to include your name and affiliates, institute/organization. And then during the Q&A portion, our moderator will be reading the questions off to the presenters. Now, again, I think given the high volume of participants and foreseeable time constraints, we may not be able to field and address every single question, but rest assured that we will be saving the questions and sending them to presenters afterwards, and we'd be happy to share the responses with everyone as a follow-up. And then lastly, please note that this webinar will be recorded, and this is something we can also share with all attendees following the conversation. Now, to kick things off, I will be introducing our amazing moderator, Dr. Amanda Elam. So she is currently a Diana Research Fellow at the Diana International Research Institute at Babson College, where she supports entrepreneurship and gender in the US and around the world. Most recently, she supported the survey development focused on COVID-19 and women's entrepreneurship at Babson College. So alongside this amazing work that Dr. Elam is doing, she is also an entrepreneur in her own right, as she's the CEO and co-founder of a medical diagnostics company. So I will hand it over to Dr. Elam to start this conversation. Thank you all.
Great, thank you, and welcome everybody. I'm really pleased to be here today to share some of these stories, experiences of women entrepreneurs during this pandemic time. Our topic is COVID-19 and women's entrepreneurship in the sustainable energy sector. This pandemic is an unprecedented global humanitarian crisis that's caused both supply and demand shocks to the global economic system. I think it's important for everyone to note the emerging data suggests that women-owned businesses around the world may be disproportionately impacted by this pandemic due to three key factors: high concentration in the most vulnerable industry sectors, the small size of most women-owned businesses, and also the family care demands that have just blown up during the crisis due to closures of schools and institutional care centers. So all entrepreneurs are scrambling. Women may be scrambling even harder. The media reports have labeled this economic recession a she-cession. So today we're going to be hearing experiences from 5 women entrepreneurs in the sustainable energy sector. And our focus is going to be on how the pandemic is affecting the women entrepreneurs in their businesses and how the crisis has actually disrupted company operations, affected customers, communities, and most importantly, the business growth plans. So we hope today's webinar will help us all craft better advocacy efforts for future funding and programming to sustain women's businesses in this sector. Before we get started, I'd like to say a quick word of thanks to our sponsors and tell you a little bit about what these organizations do, and then we'll go on to our speakers. So first of all, thanks to Sustainable Energy for All. It is an international organization working with leaders in government and the private sector and civil society to drive further and faster action towards achievement of Sustainable Development Goal 7, which calls for universal access to sustainable energy by 2030 and the Paris Agreement, which calls for reducing greenhouse gas emissions to limit climate warming to below 2 degrees Celsius. SE for All currently serves the Secretariat for the People-Centered Accelerator, which is a voluntary partnership of more than 50 organizations devoted to gender equality, social inclusion, and women's empowerment. Also like to send thanks to the Clean Cooking Alliance, which works with a global network of partners to build an inclusive industry that makes clean cooking accessible to over 3 billion people who live each day without it. Established in 2010, the Alliance is driving consumer demand, mobilizing investment to build a pipeline of scalable businesses, and fostering an enabling environment that allows the sector to thrive. And then finally, ENERGIA International Network. ENERGIA works at the intersection of gender and energy with 38 partners in 18 countries in Asia, Africa, and Europe, including CSOs, social enterprises, universities, and research institutions. ENERGIA's Empowering Women and Gendering Energy program supports 6,500 female energy entrepreneurs to strengthen and scale up their businesses. We will hear from one of those solo women entrepreneurs supported under this program today. The ENERGIA network is hosted and supported by HEVOS, an international organization that seeks new and creative solutions to persistent global problems. The HEVOS Bureau Biogas program contributes to a transition towards broad renewable energy use and more green societies. We have a biogas entrepreneur with us today as well, Rosmiati Lantara. We're showing a video of her because she wasn't able to join, but she is supported by HEVOS, providing many families with clean cooking options. So thank you so much to our sponsors for organizing the webinar today. Now I would like to turn to our speakers for introductions. We're lucky to have with us a variety of tenacious women entrepreneurs in the sustainable energy sectors. They're all leading businesses in the energy sector, and we're going to get a nice variety of stories from them. So our first is I'd like to invite Esther. Esther, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your business.
Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning. I'm Esther. I'm with Sistema Bio. We're a biogas company that operates globally. We started out in Mexico and are now present over Latin America, East Africa, and India. I served a few different roles over the last 6 years, from finance to operations, and I'm currently managing our East Africa operations based in Nairobi, where I am right now.
Thank you, Esther. Our next speaker, Oluwakemi Ojaweya, could you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your business?
Good day, everyone. My name is Mrs. Oluwakemi Ojaweya. I'm a solar sister entrepreneur. I joined in 2016 through my husband. He bought a solar lamp from one of the solar sister representatives, and ever since then I joined them, and I've been doing well. It has been so good, so amazing, and it has really made me to be independent on my own. It has boosted my self-esteem, and I sell solar lamps to schools, churches, cooperative societies, and so on and so forth.
Great, thank you very much. And Neha, I'm going to invite you now to introduce yourself and describe a little bit about your business.
Yes, so hello everyone, my name is Neha Janeja and I am one of the co-founders of Greenway Appliances. We are a India headquartered clean cooking enterprise doing everything from design until distribution, with about 1 million stoves sold in India and a very recent launch in Zambia.
Thank you, Neha. All right, and next on our list is Charlotte.
Hi everyone, my name is Charlotte Magai. I'm from Kenya and I'm the founder of Mukuru Clean Stoves, which is a social enterprise that recycles waste metal to produce clean cook stoves for low-income households. We're based in Western Kenya, but we started out in Nairobi, and we work with local women entrepreneurs who sell our stoves and earn commissions.
Thank you very much. All right, so that was round one of introductions. Now we'll go to round two of questions. So I'm going to call Esther back up. Esther, can you tell us a little bit about how the COVID-19 pandemic is impacting your business?
Sure. Sure. So at Systema, I'll start with a quick introduction of Systema Bio, if you don't mind, and then speak a bit more specifically about COVID-19. For those who don't know, Systema Bio, we work on empowering smallholder farmers by creating value from the waste produced by their animals. So we basically eliminate firewood, charcoal, or LP gas from the farms, which have a biodigester, by using the waste from animals and converting it into a clean cooking fuel, which is biogas. So we're a global social enterprise. We started 10 years ago. We just celebrated our 10th anniversary in Mexico, and then progressively expanded almost all over the world, and are now also present in East Africa, where we started 3 years ago in Kenya, where we have 6 offices in all over Kenya. We're 140 team members. We have over 4,000 clients here and have been in operations for the last 3 years. I'm very proud to say that I'm leading here a wonderful team of women leaders. Our whole management team is 100% women, which is a coincidence, but a good one. And overall, as a company, we're vertically integrated. So we tend to say we're 5 in 1. So we manufacture our biodigesters, we distribute them, we sell them, we install them, do all the after-sales service, and we provide financing to our clients for up to 24 months to be able to afford our biodigester. So yeah, I guess like everybody in the world, COVID-19 happened. And it's been, especially in the beginning when everything was so uncertain and we didn't really understand what was happening. And from Kenya, we were seeing all of Europe sort of collapsing, or it looked like it at least. So it has really been mostly, I think, an emotional roller coaster in the beginning, where we really explored all the potential scenarios of what could happen to Systema Bio and how this could impact our company. In Kenya, in the end, we've been relatively lucky, I have to say, if we compare to other countries, that there was no lockdown. We have a curfew, we have travel restrictions, all the schools are closed. But since 80% of our staff worked in the field outside of Nairobi, they were able to more or less continue work as usual by taking extraordinary precautions. So we were able to supply all of our team with masks and sanitizers. We've been communicating a lot about health and safety measures. And our Kenya team has, our Nairobi team, sorry, has been sent to work from home. So this has been really a new experiment, and I've been learning a lot by this. We've been most affected in our other East African countries, where we were supposed to launch partnerships in Uganda and Rwanda, and had some trips planned there to do some initial training and staying there. So this has been postponed. I think this has been the biggest impact on our business, not being able to travel to new countries to grow. And at the very beginning, we had 2 of our technicians stuck in South Sudan, but luckily they were able to come back to Kenya to quarantine healthy. On a business side, the main impact in the short term has been, as I mentioned, we provide financing to our clients. So we were very worried about our loan collections, which actually went down by around 30% in March and April, but we were really able to all pull together and really have this renewed focus on collections from not only the credit team, but also the sales team, the technical team. So June looks much better, which I'm happy about. And it seems we're doing, because we work with farmers who have been least affected or less affected than urban populations who might have lost their jobs, we're actually doing better than the average bank in Kenya in terms of collection, which is relatively good news given the context. What's been most impressive for me is we really realized that our product, a biodigester, is actually built to create resilience at a farm. So if you have a biodigester, you basically never have to leave your home. You have your own supply of clean cooking fuel. You don't have to go out to look for charcoal. You don't have to go out to buy LPG or look for firewood. And it also produces a biofertilizer that you can use on your fields and grow your own food. So you're basically resilience incarnated. And this resilience is really something that our team has felt and has taken on to make their own during this crisis by working extra hard, going the extra mile, being extra creative. And I've really seen that I'm really privileged to have a very passionate team. And we've moved to online meetings. We've made a lot of changes. And I'm really proud to share also that May has been our biggest month in sales since the company has started, which I still don't know exactly how I can believe it, but we've broken our monthly sales record in May since the company was founded almost exactly 3 years ago.
That's amazing in a pandemic year.
Yeah, it is.
So good and bad, right? On the one hand, you've encountered a number of different challenges. On the other hand, it sounds like your team has responded very quickly and very effectively. And so I'm wondering, so there were government mandates. Was there any access to emergency relief available? Were you able to apply for any support there?
Funding was, of course, our first concern. In the case of Sistema Bio, most of our investors are investing in the Mexico holding, so at the headquarters level. So I was able to access some emergency funding from the Africa Enterprise Challenge Fund. I applied. I don't know if we received it yet, but I was able to apply, which was very encouraging. But besides that, not so much. Actually, this is the time that the Kenyan government has chosen to remove our exemption from VAT in biogas. So this has been a big blow, not exactly related to COVID-19, but it's been really affecting us because we've had to increase our prices with VAT.
So in terms of your growth plan, so you're a large organization, right? So some of the entrepreneurs we're talking today with will be very small, but you are operating across multiple countries, many different contexts. It's a very large scale operation. How has all of this disruption impacted your growth plans? I mean, you achieved a milestone in May, but are you still on track, or do you think there's been some setback?
Yeah, our budget and forecast for 2020 was even more optimistic than where we are right now. So we're behind on at least our internal targets, but we're readjusting, and the main the main part that we've been focusing on, of course, like recruitment in sales. So we've been able to recruit 44 sales agents, among which I think more than 20 or so are women. We are continuing our strategy on growing our sales team. We've been doing online onboarding, online trainings. What I found really amazing is that not only are we training our Kenya team, but because everything is online, we were able to invite our Indian colleagues to the same trainings, which has been really enriching in terms of sharing experiences across countries because everything is online. But yeah, we've readjusted our sales target, our revenue target for this year, which is actually great because it has allowed us to really focus on our unit economics and on being like the most efficient possible organization. through the COVID-19 and our desire to protect our staff, we've also reduced in-person visits to our clients. Our basic package includes 3 in-person monitoring visits to each client. We're now doing one of those 3 on the phone, and this has been really great to see how much we're actually able to do remotely and how well we can troubleshoot and solve some of the issues without even having to go. So it's been a great time to negotiate warehouse rents and other pieces. So as much as we'll be slower on revenue and sales than initially planned, we're gaining much more efficiencies, and the team understands that those are hard times and everybody is really proactively offering solutions there.
Yeah, Esther, what a wonderful story in resiliency and well positioning a large company for recovery. Thank you for your comments. We'll have more questions, I'm sure. Right now, I'm going to switch gears and invite Olukemi to share her journey through this pandemic.
Everything was fine, but after when the pandemic started, it was really tense. You know, in Lagos State here, especially in Nigeria, when it started in March, it was really tense in Lagos. I was worried. I was stressed up. In fact, I was wondering what will happen next, because people priority change from getting other things except for food and edible things. Then there was a restriction of movements. People could not go out to meet, to get something, to buy something. Then there was insecurity here and there. Yes, because of this 1 million boys, they were attacking people. So you have to be very careful when you are going out, and it really affected my sales during this period. So because I have lost all my customers, because majority of my customers, they are within the locality and outside the locality. 60% of them are teachers, but right now that everywhere is locked down is really terrible. So there was no palliative from the government at all, from any source. So I had to re-strategize myself on how to sell my product, because people are not coming at all. My door-to-door sales and community demonstration, they have been restricted because of the movement. People cannot come out. Then there is high cost of transportation. Even if you want to go out, you have to have enough money. If you are not with enough money, somebody will be stranded on the road, so you have to be very careful. Then the security personnel too, they are there to harass people, because they only allow those people that are selling food, at least in the first 2 to 4 weeks. It was really, really terrible in Lagos State. They can easily arrest you, and if you are not selling food, and they have time when you can go out, you have a limited time, you have to come inside on time, in time, or else it will be something else. So I have to re-strategize myself with the help of Solar Sister, because they have really done great things for us. They have imparted so much in us with the Solar Sister entrepreneur. So they've taught us a lesson how to seek for solution whenever there is problem, how to face challenges like this. So I had to come up with new strategies, and they've even encouraged us to use digital devices to advertise our products, because we cannot move around. It's really, really terrible for us to go out. So I had to embark on that, and it's really working. Then again, I had to encourage instrumental payments, because I see that when I'm going out, I see with my eyes and listen to people's conversation. People are really lamenting. People are begging for money here and there online, begging for food. And in fact, it's really terrible for somebody. If you want to tell somebody to bring 2.5 to come and buy a lamp, they will tell you another story. So I had to come with that instrumental payment, which prompted me to print out some forms for them to collect their biodata. I collect to register their names, their address, and phone number. And people are really coming. It's really working for me. You know, initially I had a problem with that, because there was a man that did that in my area. He's not living there. He has a store there, and he normally collects money from the people around us, that at the end of the year is going to give them a product. get a product for them and sell. Not solar product, I think other products. But at the end of the year, he ran away with their money. So the trust was not there. So I just have to tell them that, well, I stay around and my shop is very close. You can easily locate me. And I did it for like about 10 to 15 people, and really, they were the one referring me to other people that, no, this woman is trustworthy, you can go to her. Definitely after the completion of your payments, you get your product, and it's really working too. Then I also give to some people to sell for me. We share the profits. It's really, really working for me too during this pandemic. Then also I made a big banner that I placed in front of my store. That banner, I wrote there that you can save 100 naira per day to get your lamb. And really people are coming. They are not really paying 100 naira. They are paying more than, sure you understand, but to attract them and to create awareness, people are really coming and they're getting this lamb. And also I told you that the Solar Sister company, they have encouraged us to use digital devices. So I'm using, I do post my products online on WhatsApp, on Facebook, SMS and phone calls, and really it has been working for me. Then I also have referrals from my old customers, because I do call them and ask, how have you been using your lab? Please, you can introduce me to others. And during this period, there was irregular power supply. So it really makes me to sell more in the use of these digital devices. Thank you.
So you've been through quite an ordeal with the initial shock, but that you've managed to find some ways to adapt your business model to better serve your customers. In particular, what I hear in your story, Olukemi, is the ability to find new ways to market and to sell to your customers, to increase trust, to make it more comfortable. And so I am wondering though, so there was a shock to your revenue, right? You weren't able to sell as much at first, and you found some ways to compensate for that. Are you back to normal now, or are you still working towards earning as much as you normally do through your business?
Okay, now that they have eased the lockdown a little bit, people are moving freely. Yes, customers are really coming right now. Yes, there is a change. They are really coming to get the lambs.
So that's great. So of these new ways of marketing and selling, will you keep doing those? Will those be permanent changes for you?
Yes, I'll keep on doing it. And I've come across another strategy. It's only that I want to wait for some months. I think last month I went to an area very far to our place, and I discovered that most people there, they don't like coming to the main city. They operate in that area, and they needed this clean energy. I think maybe after some months, with the help of Solar Sister, we'll go there and introduce this solar to them and bring more women to this Solar Sister Entrepreneur. And really, during the pandemic, I was the one supporting my husband, because he has not been going to work for the past 3 months. He works with a school, so he has not been going out. All my savings and part of my income has gone already for that. So I'm really supporting.
Right. So you've been left in the position to support your family through this crisis, and so that's the good part of having the business, is you were able to pivot and find some ways to continue. And it sounds to me like you may come out of this experience actually stronger. Your business may be stronger because you found some new ways to sell and some new ways to market. So I'm going to actually go to Olusimbo really quickly. She's your contact at Solar Sister. Thank you so much, Olukemi. Olusimbo, how representative is Olukemi's experience for the 6,500 women selling with Solar Sister support?
Right. So, I mean, it's first of all, we're really excited to be able to bring Oluwakemi's voice out. She represents one of the many entrepreneurs that we are supporting across Nigeria and also Tanzania, where we're running this program. And the focus is that even during this lockdown, how do we ensure that these women's businesses are protected and continue, as well as provide the clean energy access, which the need doesn't go away at this time. So what we are finding is her story is reflective of what a number of our entrepreneurs are feeling. A lot of them are supporting their families at this period, and a lot of them are have exhausted their savings, probably even eating into some of their capital just to survive. But as she also said, things are beginning to pick up, new strategies, especially the digital strategy, use more of the phone. We've started to incorporate some of these even in our trainings, and as well as in the marketing, the online marketing for our women entrepreneurs. So this is what we found that we can really do and are doing at this period.
And effectively, just to sum, I'm seeing somebody asked a question, but these businesses are retail businesses. They sell, most of the women sellers sell a number of different products, and Solar Sister is working with them to get solar products out for impact in their local communities. What about business relief? Has there been any access to emergency funding for these entrepreneurs?
So no, yes, the entrepreneurs are essentially in the retail business, selling a range of solar lamps and clean cook stoves. And what we've seen is, and we did do a survey at the beginning of the lockdowns to assess if we'd heard some announcements from the government on palliatives and see if any of our entrepreneurs are accessing. And the survey results came out that those palliatives are not getting to the last mile. They're not getting to where our women are serving. And so that's why we've faced even more hardship. Our women are especially faced with this hardship and have not been able to access the palliative so far.
Right, and this is very typical of businesses around the world, right? It's the smallest, the independent business owners that have the hardest time accessing funding, and you're seeing that real time through your program. Yeah. So thank you so much. Do you have anything else to add? Or you're good? Okay.
We'll be here for the question and answer session.
Okay, yes, we're going to have more questions in the Q&A. All right, thank you so much, Olukemi. I really appreciate your sharing your story, and I wish you the best of luck. All right, and then now I'm going to call on Neha to join us again. Neha, if you could share with us how the pandemic impacts really affected your business.
Yes, Amanda. So India has had a particularly long lockdown, as we are, the fourth largest case, a number of cases in the world right now. So I want to go back a little bit and tell you how things were and how things have changed since. We are a relatively mature company with almost 1 million stoves made and sold in the last 5-6 years. So we haven't, there are a lot of little shocks that we have absorbed over the years, shocks in terms of small market shocks or just internal supply shocks, etc., etc. But if I step back and look at, and I felt dejected before, but I don't feel so dejected right now. But if I step back and look at it from a third party, this is the worst shock that we have seen. We weren't, at the end of March, suddenly everything was suspended. India went into a very strict lockdown at 4 hours notice, which lasted for upwards of a month. So absolutely no supplies, no production, no sales, so on and so forth. And that has subsequently been extended multiple times. And even now that we are not in a lockdown, it's not really encouraged to conduct any meetings to demonstrate the product, sell the product. While we are operating our factory, we are not really making the kind of sales that we regularly do, which is just inviting people, shouting at the top of our voices, come check out the stove. And if you're interested, this is where you buy it from. Which is something that I personally relished the most about our work, and that has completely stopped. We are about 110 people in the company with about 400 sales agents, mostly women who earn a small commission on the sales that we make through them. And one of the sad parts of this entire pandemic has been that there has absolutely been no income for the sales agents. While we've not had to fire anyone to cut costs, or we've cut costs other ways, but that seems to be something that we need to correct quickly and compensate for in the coming months. And if we are to do that, that also seems a little bit difficult right now, because the economy, the Indian economy is expected to contract by about 5%, which is huge for a country where safety nets, etc., don't exist. So what I'm hearing from our customers, our agents, is this whole anxiety around income and livelihoods, and which is why, along with the regular things that we do as a business to come back and of course come back to normal levels of sales in India, we are also seriously considering of making some business model changes to either take some jobs to rural areas or do something in which we can facilitate income for a larger number of people going forward. So some simple things like not automating some operations where people can be hired. It may seem like in modern times not the best thing to do from a cost benefit perspective, but just from the way the situation is right now, it is the right thing to do. On the other hand, we did have a lucky break. We just launched operations in Africa in January of this year, and revenue has been coming from there. So, which is why this just lucky break has saved us from, we can continue to operate the factory, continue to ship out product, so on and so forth. However, this is a big, I mean, more than the fact that there are safety concerns in sending people out to work, even customers coming in to see the product, the longer term economic shock of this kind of a situation hurts our customer segment the most. But having said that, I think companies in this sector, and I would give credit to ourselves, also have higher resilience, and the products have higher resilience to such shocks than most other products, even though we're not really deemed as an essential product, but the need or the desire for that product hasn't really gone down because of how things are right now.
And that's encouraging. A lot of the shock is actually how market demand is reduced or disappeared. And you're working in a market where you would expect people to revert to the very basic necessities, essentials. And it sounds like they're counting your products among those essentials because you see continued sales. Yeah, that's great. So are you using digital tools more? And well, obviously for remote, right? For remote workers, you're using digital platforms more. Are you also using more digital to market now, trying to reach your customers or stay in touch with them?
Yes, Amanda. So the thing, at least in India, because we haven't really seen an increase in digital tool usage, because India, there's generally a propensity to use digital tools given mobile data is quite cheap and there's generally good access for smartphones of different kinds across. But we are seeing an increase. We've recently developed some WhatsApp payment links so that people can pay. You can send people a payment link and they can pay via the mode that is most convenient to them, so on and so forth. And also building some kind of dashboards on. So we also facilitate a fair bit of consumer credit for our customers. And India has currently announced a 6-month moratorium on any kind of structured loan payments, no matter how small or how big they are. And so earlier we would look at a dashboard where even if 3% of the payments were red or delayed, one would worry. Now the whole dashboard is red. And we're having to do a lot of digital intervention to at least keep in touch with customers, not annoy them. We understand what the situation is right now, and yet do some creative engagement, digital engagement there to make sure that they don't forget us and they don't forget to pay for the
right. And that's actually a huge challenge for businesses around the world. How have you changed your messaging in order, like what did it look like to be creative and stay in touch with customers, even though like you don't want to hit them with hard sales if they're experiencing economic hardship? Can you share what you did?
So one of the things, for the past 11 weeks, I have been at home. I have not, so I live in a containment area where nobody is allowed to go in and out because we have lots of cases around. So I've spent most of my time having a little less than usual work to just talk to customers. And one of the This is not really a digital intervention, but one of the things that we've understood and decided to do is to sort of spread out our supply chain and take it a little bit closer to different clusters of consumers in order to, of course, de-risk the supply chain. Right now, one very big risk we have is that if where our factory operates, there's even a single case, we'll have to shut down the factory, which means that the few sales or the lesser sales we're making, it just completely stops there and then. So we are stocking goods at different points so that at least inventory can be flowed or plowed from different sources. But we want to sort of expand this whole manufacturing operation, not centrally, but more in a distributed way, take it closer to consumers and also get the same communities who currently buy and help distribute our stoves to sort of partake in the making of it as well, as much as we can without compromising on the processes. We are also in a country where most people migrate to urban or semi-urban areas to find jobs. And that entire tendency or desire to go to a semi-urban area now with what is all that has happened has come down drastically. You meet a lot of, you speak to a lot of consumers who had their son working in the city and she's saying that I'm not sending him back. We need to get, find some work for him or her here, right here. And just building on that sentiment or pull, we want to change our operations to be able to fulfill that sort of that aspiration and that market need as well.
Right. Neha, thank you very much for sharing sharing your experiences. Your business is pivoting to respond to the conditions. Every business has a unique set of factors, right, that we're having to adapt to. And I'm sure there'll be some more questions about your particular response. So at this point, it is time to call on Charlotte. So Charlotte, please share with us how your business has been impacted and the ways you found to effectively pivot or respond to the challenges.
Thanks, Amanda. So a little bit of history about Mukuru Clean Stoves. We started out in 2017 and we were based in Nairobi selling to urban households until we figured out that the people with the most need were based in rural areas. So we moved our business to Western Kenya where we, established our factory. And what we do is partner with women in local markets who already have small businesses operating, and we have them work as our sales agents. So they sell a stove, which is $1,000 at $10, and they get a 10% commission. So that is $1 each for every unit sold. And so this helps them, increase their household income and enable them to kind of provide better meals for their children and grow, provide even education for their children. So when Corona happened in Kenya, we weren't as hit as, the rest of the world or, maybe Europe, but we made plans to kind of have, a decrease in sales and have some of our sales agents close up. So we had made plans for that. But then what we realized was after 2 weeks, these women had to come back to their businesses because they kind of live from hand to mouth. So if they're not working, the children are not eating. So they had to work. So our sales decreased for about 2 weeks, but then they went back up. And so from the evidence we've gathered of why we did not kind of suffer the way other businesses in, the startup phase did, and we found that because a lot of the people who provide for these families, so a lot of the breadwinners were forced to stay home for the first 2 weeks in March, they were then able to realize just how dire the need is for clean cook stoves in their households. So that is one of the reasons why people were able to buy stoves, and they may have classified it as as an essential product for their households in that particular time. So what we did was to encourage our sales agents to keep, selling, to stay in their shops, was because we cannot do, what we usually do is market demonstrations where we set up a tent in every market in different villages and educate the market goers on the impacts of, household air pollution and the benefits of using clean cookstoves, and why our cookstoves were great for them, and the fact that they were made using recycled metal, but still, the best, very strong metal, so it was going to last them for a while. So this encouraged people to buy stoves for them, but we were not able to do that anymore because it would have, encouraged a gathering, which was a bad idea at the time. So we partnered with local radios who at the time were also, hunting for advertisements because other brands were not advertising. So we were able to get really good deals and advertise our stoves and get people to kind of contact our sales agents to buy these particular stoves. So that really helped. And another thing that we realized was an encourager for households to buy these cook stoves was because most people learned through, the education from WHO and the government that being predisposed to respiratory tract infections, put you at greater risk in case you contacted, the virus. So people wanted to avoid that. So then that pushed them to buy the stove. So those were the two major contributors that our research kind of developed. So in order to encourage people to buy more stoves, because we already had people learning about the benefits of clean cook stoves, we were doing a scale-up project in 2 counties in Kenya, in Western Kenya. So we decided we weren't going to stop our operations, and we were going to keep going to enable people to, have access to these stoves. And a lot more people, if they were willing to buy, all we needed to do was produce. We needed to engage more artisans. We needed to engage more sales agents, who are these women in these local markets. We needed to get them to sell more stoves, to encourage them to keep their businesses open, while practicing safer methods of selling, being cautious to not contact the virus or even spread it. But that really helped our get our name out there, get our cook stoves out there, and really increase our sales during this time. And also just the simple fact that most of the time, when at the beginning of the year, people don't buy stoves because they have to pay school fees for their children, and they have other needs that they put ahead. But after the first term of schools, what happens is now people can invest in cook stoves. And also because of the weather change in Kenya right now, it's really cold. So everyone is looking to buy a stove which they can use to cook in their households. It's raining. So if you have an open fire, you're not able to use it because it's outside, it's gonna get rained on, you won't be able to light it, and you won't be able to provide meals for your children. So what we find is that because people wanna be able to cook inside their households and have a stove they can actually use, have a stove that they can use using briquettes or whatever kind of fuel that they have, but it's gonna help them reduce that. So during this time in June, July, beginning June and July, sales also increase. So when it comes to the effects of Corona of our business, the biggest effect that it has had on our business is it has helped us spread awareness on the impacts of household air pollution and how clean cooking can help families avoid all the respiratory tract infections that they contact from that.
I'm on mute. So Charlotte, that's amazing. So you've learned so much from this pandemic, actually, that's going to help you improve your business. This is part of what I hear from your story. I mean, you've really managed to take the crisis and turn it into a good thing. I think we've heard that theme from other businesses. When it comes, you mentioned, the safe practices for actually, the transaction. So how are you actually getting the product to the customer? Are they coming to you? Are you delivering? Like, how are you managing that?
So how that works is we have field offices for different markets, and they onboard the sales agents, and the sales agents don't actually have to leave their place of work. We bring the cook stoves to them, and they make their collections, and we have using mobile money, they send the money back to us. And if they need more stoves, it's just them sending a text saying they would be needing more stove. But our sales agents, what they do is field work, so they have to be there to check if they need more stoves, if they need help selling the stoves that they have at the moment, so they don't have to come to us. And most of this businesses that we work with, the beauty about it is during such a time when people are not able to move around, they don't really have to, because they sell in their villages, so they are where they need to be. It's just a matter of you going to open your shop, you having your mask on and your gloves on to kind of protect yourself, but also protect your customers. So it's been they are in a position where they're not exposing themselves too much in order to make a living. And what we're doing as Mukuru Clean Stoves is doing our part to educate them and make sure they're protecting themselves while working to fend for their families.
Right. So the answer is, instead of a market scenario where everybody is collecting in one place, the sales agents are out in their villages and they can just conduct one transaction at a time in a safe fashion, with some flexibility. And I think businesses around the world are trying to figure out these new ways of interacting with customers that might actually be the way that business was already done in some places. So, but really, what a fabulous example of how, even with a market where you have customers who are very vulnerable to economic impact, you've managed to keep your business going and have a great June and July come out of this. So do you feel, is your business back to regular, are you seeing the regular sales that you normally see, and is your growth plan in place?
So I would say, like Amanda, because the market in Kenya was not as greatly affected, especially if you were in rural areas like Mukuru Clean Stoves is, but we definitely had to make some changes. We couldn't continue doing business as usual, the way we were used to it. We had to put in place measures to ensure that even the artisans, we train local youth in Western Kenya, and we work with them as artisans. We have a factory where we have to make sure that everyone coming in and going out is really working in a very safe environment. So in the factory, for instance, we had to make changes where we built different sections. In the past, we had a huge space where everyone was working together. And this was, a number of people, maybe even 8 at a time. So we decided to divide it in sections where we would have only 2 people in one section doing production. And this enables them to kind of, be in a safer environment as opposed to what they are used to normally. We provide face masks, we provide hand sanitizers, we have to provide very clean water in the factory, and so making sure that everyone is coming in is practicing really good hygiene and getting used to it as our new normal. And because most of the work done in the factory is really manual labor, if I can call it that, people are not used to that. You having them keep cleaning their hands, every hour. If they have to leave the factory and come back, they have to keep cleaning their hands. It's not something that many people are used to, but you have to keep preaching it until it becomes a new normal. And for our sales agents, we had to do the same. So they would say, well, we don't have these hand sanitizers, but then we would go into, our kind of research and development funds and use that to purchase the hand sanitizers that they need, that they're going to provide to these customers, because these are people who are selling to their village mates. They want to sit there with them, they want to talk, they want to hold hands. You have to kind of discourage that, and you have to still do it in such a way that you're not making it seem like it's so foreign and it's something so different that they cannot get accustomed to. So we've really had to kind of go back to the drawing board, and in the trainings that we do for these women, because how we onboard is we partner with, the most popular women group in that particular market. We educate them, we show them our stoves, we give it to them to use, and then we pick the women who have who have businesses and they work as our sales agents. So the training has to change too. You cannot just train about the stove. You have to train about, hygiene as well and health. So yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. You've really capitalized on the existing network you have in order to impact communities in a very positive way. Thank you. We're going to have a lot more questions for you. I can see it, the chat stream's been going pretty quickly, but now it's time to shift gears and hear from our video participant. So we're going to listen to a video from Rose Miati. She's going to describe her business and talk about the impacts.
Baik, tipe bisnis yang kami kombinasikan ada dua tipe, yakni bisnis to bisnis, B2B, dan bisnis to customer, B2C, di sektor energi baru terbarukan dan pertanian berkelanjutan, khususnya instalasi biogas dan pupuk bioslurry. Badan usaha kami adalah salah satu mitra konstruksi atau biasa disebut dengan construction partnership partner organization TPO dalam Indonesia Domestic Biogas Program IDBP atau lebih dikenal dengan program biru biogas rumah yang dilaksanakan oleh Yayasan Rumah Energi dan Hypos SEA di Sulawesi Selatan. Pemasaran biogas selama ini selain langsung kepada masyarakat dengan pembiayaan swadaya, juga memanfaatkan peluang pasar yang terbuka melalui dana pemerintah yang memiliki program di sektor energi baru terbarukan dan pertanian. Misalnya seperti dana APBD Kabupaten, APBD Provinsi, dan APBN. Sebab biogas ini selain dapat meningkatkan ekonomi keluarga melalui pemanfaatan gas sebagai sumber energi yang bisa mengurangi pengeluaran rumah tangga, juga menghasilkan bioslurry sebagai pupuk alami. Nah, bioslurry ini dapat menjadi komoditas bisnis yang baru. Hingga kini kami telah melakukan pembangunan 235 unit reaktor biogas. Dalam sektor pemberdayaan masyarakat, badan usaha kami juga bekerja sama dengan dana CSR BUMN di Semen Indonesia, yakni di PT Semen Tonasa di Kabupaten di Sulawesi Selatan, dengan dua kegiatan yang berlangsung sejak tahun 2019 sampai dengan 2020 dengan kegiatan pemetaan sosial di tahun 2019 di unit pengantongan semen di Desa Belang-Belang, Kecamatan Kaluku, Kabupaten Mamuju di Sulawesi Barat. Badan usaha kami juga menjadi penanggung jawab dalam program inovasi desa, Direktori penyedia peningkatan kapasitas teknis desa atau P2KTD di bidang pengembangan ekonomi dan kewirausahaan lokal.
Bagaimana dampak COVID-19 terhadap bisnis yang Anda jalankan?
Ya, baik. Jadi memang dengan adanya COVID ini ada beberapa dampak secara langsung yang bisnis kami yang kami rasakan. Di antaranya itu Ibu, rencana pembangunan biogas yang bersumber dari pendanaan pemerintah untuk program biru tahun 2020 ini semuanya dialihkan untuk kegiatan pemerintah terkait dengan penanganan COVID-19. Sehingga ada 50 unit biogas yang gagal kami bangun saat ini. Kemudian dampak berikutnya yang kami rasakan dalam bisnis ini menurunnya minat pasar atau permintaan pasar daya beli konsumen. Rencana untuk kolaborasi pendanaan kredit ke konsumen dengan pihak perbankan itu sangat kecil peluangnya untuk terlaksana akibat masyarakat itu memprioritaskan untuk kebutuhan pokoknya seperti misalnya sembako. Nah, dampak yang kami rasakan pula Bu, itu tertundanya berbagai aktivitas kami khususnya di pemberdayaan masyarakat dengan kegiatan pelatihan dan evaluasi program yang kami jalankan. Dan yang lebih pelik lagi adalah promosi melalui sosialisasi tidak berjalan maksimal karena adanya kebijakan-kebijakan pembatasan sosial berskala besar yang berlaku di wilayah kami di Sulawesi Selatan. Seperti itu. Namanya Brahman. Bagus itu sebenarnya.
Karena pandemi COVID-19 ini mempengaruhi rencana pertumbuhan bisnis Anda. Lalu bagaimana Anda beradaptasi terhadap hal itu?
Ya, jadi memang pandemi ini sangat mempengaruhi rencana pertumbuhan bisnis kami, khususnya dalam pertumbuhan pembangunan reaktor biogas. Tahun ini kami merencanakan akan membangun sekitar 120 unit melalui kerjasama pemerintah provinsi dan CSR. Tetapi tidak terlaksana disebabkan karena adanya kebijakan pemerintah dan pengalihan anggaran ke penanganan COVID-19. Gerak kami pun sangat-sangat terbatas untuk melakukan promosi dan pemasaran melalui sosialisasi ke calon user yang potensial. Cara kami dalam beradaptasi dengan suasana dan kondisi pandemi ini, khususnya dalam kegiatan pemberdayaan masyarakat adalah kami tetap melakukan kegiatan dengan bekerja di rumah saja secara online, yaitu via telepon atau dengan video call bersama dengan user atau masyarakat penerima manfaat kami. Untuk melakukan konfirmasi kegiatan di lapangan terkait evaluasi kegiatan program CSR serta bisnis biosduri, kami melakukan koordinasi dan komunikasi dengan mitra bersama mitra mengikuti protokol dari COVID-19 itu sendiri. Memang dan juga kami memangkas biaya-biaya yang tidak penting guna mempertahankan cash flow kami dalam perusahaan. Adapun kami juga memperkuat dan tetap optimis dari tim kami untuk di lapangan untuk tetap memasarkan dengan cara potensi sumber daya kami seperti tukang, supervisor untuk diminta tetap melakukan promosi secara orang per orang. Demikian Bu, seperti itu yang kami bisa sampaikan terkait bisnis usaha kami selama masa pandemi ini.
Well, that was excellent. I've been reviewing some of the questions for the next piece of what we're going to do. Merzmiati touches on she brought up a few things that we didn't hear about from some of our other entrepreneurs, but certainly questions that we can pose. So, all right, so we're going to switch gears now to our final segment, which is opening the Q&A. And I'm going to direct questions to specific individuals. I think one question that I saw, I think I'll address directly, and that is that smaller businesses are often more flexible and agile and easier to adjust, but larger companies have more resources. And so we hear differences in the stories because in some ways with this recession, the larger companies have had people who can go after funding while others are addressing the health concerns, others are doing marketing, others are doing operations, where the smaller business owners have to do all of that at once. So yes, they can be more agile and flexible, but they also have more constraints. So Esther, one question we had for you concerns, how you finance your clients. Do you do direct financing or use installment plans? Do you offer the PAYG as a model?
Thanks for that question. So we do
pay as you go, I guess that's
things. Exactly.
Yeah.
So we don't do pay as you go because that doesn't really work well for biogas because it has to be the biodigester has to be fed every day with manure. And if we were to close the cook stove, we could, but it would release a lot of methane in the environment, which we don't want. So we can't really do pay as you go from an environmental perspective. But we do mostly, we finance our clients ourselves. So we started in 2012 in Mexico with a partnership with Kiva, which is the largest online crowdsourcing platform for microfinance institutions. And they expanded in 2012 with us to also finance social enterprises. So they were financing our clients indirectly by financing us. So we are still partnering with them, but they were our first partners in making our product affordable. And since then, because we've outgrown the credit line with Kiva, we're also just fundraising working capital with impact investors and commercial investors to continue to finance our clients. In Kenya and India, we've started partnering with local microfinance institutions or banks like Equity Bank or KWFT in Kenya, so that they can finance our clients, which is really a win-win situation, because they can diversify their loan portfolio and we can reach more clients and not have the financial risk.
So thank you. And for that, it's really, I mean, you're really speaking from a large company perspective here, and a number of the people watching our webinar today actually are thinking they're at the very beginning of the journey that Sistema Bio has gone through. Do you have any advice or for those who are just starting out or early stages?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I like that you refer to us too big, because we're still so small compared to the market, but it's relative. I mean, there's still so much more to do. I mean, I wish we were already much bigger, but serving more clients, I mean. But I think that the advice is start with low risk capital. The very first pilot we did with $15,000, just trying to lend. And then like really start small. And what I think has been really important for us is to match the monthly payments from the clients to the savings that they make every month. So we try to, for every client, we help them understand their economics, and we calculate for them how much they spend on firewood, on charcoal, on LPG, and even on chemical fertilizer. And we like put that on a monthly basis, and we try to have the monthly repayment either be the same or even less than the amount that they used to spend, so that either it's a zero-sum game or they even already start saving while they're repaying the loan. So what we also found is the duration of the loan doesn't really impact repayment rate. So don't be shy to make 24-month loans from the beginning. It will actually help to make smaller installments over a long period rather than like larger installments in a shorter period.
Okay. That is excellent. So my business professor hat says nail the customer value proposition. That's the first piece of advice. Really understand the economics and the value to the customer, and they may not know it, so explain it to them. And then the second is, you know, you really run some experiments around financing, because you all were happy to learn that 24 months was a worthwhile approach. So that's excellent. So we have another question around government relief, and you're operating in multiple countries, and you've seen a variety of different, so Esther, this is for you again.
Yeah, sorry.
You've seen a variety of different types of relief offered. In your opinion, what would have helped your business, or what do you think the government could do to better support, you know, women's entrepreneurship around, because this is a big topic of conversation right now, right? Is that gender is usually not part of the policy response to disasters or recessions. So in your opinion, is there anything the government could really do to help businesses like yours, and more specifically those run by women?
That's a difficult question, because we don't really work a lot with governments. So I think what the government could do is I mean, very general, just really focusing on education for women, access to school for women, and making sure that they don't get sort of singled out very early and get equal opportunities than boys and men in education and in their careers. I think if I really believe in role models, so if the government itself had a gender policy and had female leaders, there would be many more examples to follow for young girls and women. But I think overall, in this sort of emotional roller coaster that I was describing in the beginning, just giving confidence and trust that the government will be there if something really bad happens would have been extremely helpful. I think this is something we've seen in Europe early on, sort of some announcements, even if they're not completely followed through, but just that there will be a net of support, which is more difficult in developing countries where there's not so much safety net. But it was, I think that there has been some World Bank and EU funding for the Kenyan government that says that they will provide food to the poorest. So they're just to try to reduce social unrest or just really famine, and these have been really positive signs from the governments to build a little bit of trust in the system.
Okay. Yeah, this is great. I mean, in other words, it would be great to have a commitment from the government to do everything they can in order to support, depending on their limitations as well.
Yeah, I think it's been a bit disheartening in Kenya that at the same time we were declared an essential service, so we were actually able to continue to travel and have more freedom than other companies, while they removed our VAT exemption. So it was just giving
mixed messages,
something while damaging us or hurting us on the other side. So that's been a challenge, and not exactly what we needed exactly in this time. So probably more support or more flexibility would have been appreciated.
Okay, great. So I'm going to direct the next question to, let's see, Oluwakemi and Olasimbo. So, so for Solar Sisters, Olasimbo, the question is, what's the business model behind Solar Sisters? How do you work with entrepreneurs like Oluwakemi and what's the payment structure look like, and can you describe where the products come from and how they're distributed?
Right. So for us, we run a cash model. Currently, we have partnerships with. We have a partnership with Lighten Global, so to ensure that all the products that we do deliver are quality verified. And so a number of local partnerships which we've developed, which with manufacturers who have the Lighten Global certification. So we partner with them and distribute a range of their products in the solar lantern space, or solar home systems space as well. And then for the similar arrangement with the clean cook stoves as well, we ensure that the stoves that we're distributing have the Global Alliance certification as well. And we do have local partnerships where we distribute. So the model for the entrepreneurs is a cash model. The entrepreneurs need to pay for their products in cash, and the similar thing to their customers as well. And I think that's where innovation has also kicked in, where we're seeing this part payments like what Mrs. Oluwakemi mentioned, ways in which to ensure that the products are a little bit more affordable. We also distribute more of the Pico lanterns and the smaller lanterns, also to ensure that we're catering for that affordability piece, which is key.
Great. So thank you for sharing that. Kemi, I'm going to actually direct a question to you, which I hope isn't too challenging, but just because I would have a hard time answering it. So the question really is, given how the pandemic has kind of disrupted the roles in households and the roles in business, do you have a sense of how gender norms might change from how who's doing what during this pandemic? Do you think that women are going to be more appreciated and valued in your community?
I think so, yes, because I think so. Women are going to be well appreciated if you are doing this, because you'll be able to support your husband and so many other things. You'll be dependent on your own. You not depend on anybody, and it will really help us. And like me, in my environment right now, the people are looking at me as if I don't know, because of this solar business I'm doing, I'm doing well. So in fact, it's really good. Women will be appreciated.
Well, and I know that when I first met you, you mentioned that that having your own shop and becoming a woman entrepreneur in your community raised your profile. Like, people knew who you were, and you felt that you kind of gained a public role that was well respected in your community. Yeah. Yes, and I think the pandemic makes that greater. Yes.
I think so. Yes, I'm highly respected in my community because of this business I'm doing right now.
That's great. So I think the answer on gender norms is we will see, but certainly there's been some disruption, and I can tell you from my business, I have a key manager who we're in the central business in the medical area, and she has to be at work, and her husband has flexibility. He's working from home, so guess who's homeschooling the kids? Right. And so there is some shifting in duties going on, and there is a question around what those impacts could be. So thank you for that. So and then I'll put this question to you as well. What do you think, Olukemi and Olusimbo, what do you think governments could do to better support entrepreneurs like you, Olukemi? Could your government have done something to make this crisis easier for you to push through?
What can government do?
Yes, I think the government can create an enabling environment for women entrepreneurs, and to make policies that will ensure the security of women so that they will not be harassed anyhow, then to promote gender equality and to protect the rights of women in the society.
Yeah. And just to speak a little bit more on that, so even in this period, we did get news of some VAT exemptions on some exemptions on some solar products. So part of what we are trying to do is to ensure, the way it was worded was around solar generators and solar panels, and just to ensure that the Pico Lantern and that the off-grid space is really accommodated in that. I think that's also something that we're advocating for. When you say a solar generator, does that include a solar lantern? And so that we can also take advantage of some of these things that the governments are doing to ensure that the renewable energy sector is promoted in Nigeria. So I think that's also something that we are advocating for the government, to ensure that the Pico Lanterns, the solar home systems, are also included in this reliefs. That would also really help the market.
I think that's a very important observation. Anything the governments can do to help entrepreneurs who are selling these smaller products, so new products that are sold largely through new and small businesses, will help women entrepreneurs because they're heavily represented in this class of business. Whereas a lot of the government policy tends to focus on large companies and the products that are like business to business sales. And understandably, that's where all the lobbying is happening, right, in government. And so we need voices like Olukemi's and other small entrepreneurs to so that the government and policymakers can really understand that they need to be paying attention to these other segments as well. So thank you for that. All right, so other questions. Let's see. So I think I'm going to direct this one to Charlotte. So thank you, Olukemi and Olusimbo. So Charlotte. We have a question here around, let's see, I'm going to just read the whole statement. There's so much for countries in South Asia to learn from Africa on bringing about a behavioral change among customers, which has led to an increase in adoption of clean cook stoves in the region. In Kenya, what are the 3 main reasons for the success?
So I guess I would say for the case of Mukuru Clean Stove, it is number 1 being that the breadwinners, the people who make the decisions to buy assets for the home, had to stay home and experience the effects of cooking with open fires or inefficient stoves. So that really helped. And also the education out there, the information that was really educating people that if you're predisposed to respiratory tract infections of any kind, and then you contract COVID, you will be more infected than people who have better, cooking technologies. So that was another reason why people opted to adopt these clean cook stoves. But really just having the head of the household, whether it's the man or the woman, having to experience how everyone in their household cooks their food, how they eat, and how that affects their everyday lives, enabled people to want to, invest in better cooking technologies.
So thank you for that, Charlotte. And I'm going to pose the question to you. What types of policies would have helped your business during this crisis? What do you think governments should consider in policy making for you and for women entrepreneurs like you?
I think, like Esther said, the fact that now for cook stoves have to pay VAT on their products, which may force some companies to increase the pricing of these cook stoves is not a very good idea, because right now people are learning about the impacts of household air pollution and they're encouraged to purchase these stoves. So if you increase the purchase price for them, then you will be taking away the access from them by increasing or making it impossible for them to afford the product. So I believe already cook stoves are very expensive. Ours are affordable because they're made locally using recycled metal, but still, even at $10, families who earn $40 to $100 monthly income are not able to afford it. So if you increase that and it gets to 20 or even 50, which is the range of other cook stoves, then they don't have access to it. You're providing these stoves to maybe middle income households who are not necessarily the target market. So I believe that is the biggest pain point right now for people who are trying to, accelerate their adoption by providing affordable appliances for low-income households.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. And I'm going to call on Neha here. We're starting to run out of time, so I want to make sure she has a chance. Also, Neha, when you think about how governments could better support women entrepreneurs and businesses like yours, what would you like those policymakers to keep in mind?
So, Manu, for countries as complex as the one we work in, anything good that the government does sort of translates right down. But one of the things that specifically impact women entrepreneurs at various levels is I want to say one good thing that one of our governments did I think over 2 decades ago, was to sort of start and formalize the whole self-help group movement. So India has a very resilient women's self-help group movement where a lot of self-help groups are linked to banks. There are facilities available. There are just a lot of support structures available, which also because of the grouping become easy to access. You have one lady in your group of 8 who kind of takes the initiative to understand, and it ends up benefiting everybody as and when somebody puts in effort. And I think that just that network has this whole structure of millions of women in that kind of self-help groups has benefited financial inclusion, it has benefited energy enterprises, it has just benefited a whole range of healthcare services. And I think there are examples of that globally, and this is something that, especially given the current situation, just needs to be accelerated and amplified
So are
wherever.
these, yeah. So are
Yes.
these women's networks or women's unions or women's business networks?
So these can be anything from an informal network. I can get together with my neighbors and form a self-help group. And as a self-help group, there's a better chance of a bank opening an account for us as opposed to one of us doing it individually, or for availing a whole range of other support programs, or even a whole bunch of other linkages. I think it has served the country very well, and even industries like ours very well. And it just, given the current pandemic, there needs to be a push for sort of amplifying the potential of women's networks or self-help groups. How that can be done, I do not know that, but it should be done.
I believe that business associations and networks play a very important role in all countries. One of the characteristics that's really unique about developing context, the concept I think about are village level savings associations, VLSAs, and these types of associations, we can give them different names, but they really play an important role in immigrant entrepreneurship in every country I know. And certain countries, they're more normative. It's just the way business is done. And it's great to know that you see the power of that. And so there is women's network programs, education, training programs that can help create this infrastructure, which obviously is incredibly important in a crisis, is also very important at the earliest stages of business launch and growth. So I think we are at the end of our time for Q&A. I'd like to thank all of the entrepreneurs who've participated today. Your stories are amazing. They really speak to the resilience and the resourcefulness of women entrepreneurs around the world, and you really exemplify, the ability of women to lead their businesses and to respond to economic crisis, even larger humanitarian pandemic health crises, in ways that show how important it is to invest in women entrepreneurs. I mean, the types of businesses that you all are running, while they range in size, you have a lot in common in terms of the market, right? So your markets are full of people who are on the lower income end of things for consumer focused businesses, and some essential services, some, maybe not have been deemed by your local governments as essential services, but you've still found a pathway through the crisis and are looking optimistically at what future growth offers your business going forward. So for everybody listening, I hope that you have learned something today around women's entrepreneurship, these incredible women entrepreneurs, and look forward to engaging with you. If you have any questions, you're welcome to reach out to me. I think, Jacinto, we have a final slide that we can share, or with some contact information again, in case you would like to reach out individually to any of the entrepreneurs who presented today. You may have questions for them that will be helpful to your work, and you're certainly welcome to reach out to me at Babson College as well. And I will invite any final comments now from our hosts.
Hi, yeah, I can just give very brief remarks. I think speaking from our end, it was really great to put on this webinar. I think we realized the value of having a very timely conversation, and I think our overall goal was to really just elevate the platform of these amazing entrepreneurs. I think respectively, they are not only responding, but responding through very innovative and creative ways. And so it's always great to have these touch points to really just learn and deepen our knowledge, as well as I think to also recognize where possible connections could be formed. So I see a lot of comments around contact information. So please know that we are going to not only share the recording afterwards, but we'll also share the video that was shown. And we'll also include information around how to get in contact with each of these speakers. And we really encourage you all to do so. I think despite the virtual nature of our work, I think there's still ways to make connections and to just keep in touch. So thank you again for joining, and many thanks again to Amanda and the amazing speakers. Like, it's so inspiring to listen, and it just reminds us of why we're doing this work every day.